Hello everyone, this is Chris, and today I'll be showing you 5 separate seeds that's related to the brand new generation in the experimental toggle for Bedrock Edition. These seeds can range from massive cliffs to deep depths to everything in between. Now keep in mind that seeds are definitely going to be changing from now into full release of 1.18. We've seen that inside of experimental betas and snapshots, so in case you are checking these seeds out in the future, then they may not be working anymore. So let's start off with seed number 1 right here, and here's the seed in question, and he's spawning right next to a diamond block pillar. It's only a rare commodity that happens every now and then, but yeah, you do spawn in right around here, right next to some pretty steep slopes and some pretty steep cliffs. Yeah, right at spawn you get some of the brand new types of mountain generation just right here. And there's some areas that's not just a big peak, there's also sort of a dips inside of here like this. The generation goes on for literally forever, or it at least feels like it goes on forever, because yeah, this seed has so many different types of mountains generating all across it. We get this one right there, we get this one right there, we get the one we were just at over there. There is literally an infinite supply of mountains around here. And if you excuse the slightly poor frame rate I'm getting right now, we could see, yeah, even with 80 chunks, it's still really hard to see every single mountain that generates around spawn inside the seed. And speaking of around spawn, there's actually some noteworthy structures around spawn you might be interested in, such as this one village, which just so happened to spawn in with 2 separate blacksmiths right here, right on top of, or right next to a mountain biome. So that's a kind of interesting style of generation. We also get this pillager outpost right here, which I think is set in probably the perfect place, because just underneath that pillager outpost we get a direct entrance to a dripstone cave, and not just a dripstone cave, a watery aquifer dripstone cave. So in case you want to have a challenge in getting your dripstone, then this might be the seed for you. But all the structures around spawn are literally and physically dwarfed by the absolute scale of the amount of mountains we have at the spawn of this world. But can the second seed in any way top the first seed? Well, there's only one way to find out, by typing in these numbers right here and spawning right next to, this time, a cut red sandstone pillar. There's so many different types of pillars inside these experimental, whatever, beta snapshot things. FYI, I placed them to mark spawn. Okay, I know some people are going to think these actually generate in. But more to the point, you get some pretty, steep style mesa badlands biomes around here, which is actually a pretty, I guess, uncommon thing. Like, it seems as though you could find these not too incredibly hard, but it still doesn't make them any less cool. Like, it's still cool seeing some of these really, hilly style of mesa badlands. And speaking of really hilly mesa badlands, by heading past this one village right here, which also happens to spawn as a plains village inside of a savanna, which is in a jungle, kind of weird, but okay. But anyways, if you head yourself over here, then you get some incredibly steep style terrain, which actually goes up really high around here, with the peak being all the way over here. This thing is by far the tallest and highest mountain you could find inside this one seed. And yeah, good luck trying to get up one of these things, because again, it is very steep, and it goes almost as high as the mountains can possibly go right now, all the way up to Y246, and all the way up to 151 if you count the trees. So yeah, a very hilly and steep mountain right here. Wait a minute, how is a savanna village spawning inside of a desert right next to a plains? There's a lot of bugs in these experimental things. There's a lot of bugs inside these experimental worlds, aren't there? But something that's slightly less buggy is all the other types of mountainous generation we have surrounding that mega mountain over there. We get ourselves this really big sand dune mountain right here, which spawned right next to a snowy mountain right there. Not sure how that happens, not sure how that managed to generate in, but okay. But then we also get other types of hills around the place. Yeah, there's some pretty steep hills all over this one particular seed, and in places you really wouldn't expect it. Like, again, how would this ever happen? Like a snowy mountain inside the middle of a desert. Like, that just doesn't make any sense. Something that makes slightly more sense is this plains biome right here, which is actually fairly flat. I'm saying that because as of 1.18, it's going to be much harder to find some flat areas to build on. So I figured it's noteworthy to point out that there is quite a decent amount of flat land around the place. But surrounding that flat land is some extremely tall mountains. Yeah, this seed is just chock full of really steep and tall mountains. Though I don't know if steep is quite the right word right here, because up here at Y244 is a sky island. I don't know if I could count this as a mountain. It's more an island, but in case you want to live your life up here with some foxes and with some spruce wood and podzol, then I guess it's possible, though I don't know how you're gonna get yourself up here, but I guess it's there if you want it. Okay, C2 was nice and all, but it was honestly just a little bit hit or miss. Let's see if C3 can redeem itself in any ways. And C3 in question is these numbers right here, which spawns you right here, right where this dark oak pillar is. And immediately from looking around, it does seem as though there's been some types of redemptions here and there. First off, there's plenty of different types of biomes now at spawn, I think thanks to the microbiome thing, but yeah, in case you want to get yourself some bamboo forest or some jungle wood or something like that, then it is totally up for grabs here. And something else that is up for grabs is this one body of water right here, and it doesn't look like anything too spectacular, apart from it being much lower than the normal sea level. What is spectacular about it is if you head yourself just right the way down here, you'll eventually find yourself inside of a lush cave. And this lush cave right here is actually very layered in terms of how many lush caves there are, showing off from this azalea tree right here, which is kind of odd seeing. But yeah, in case you mine yourself down even further, then you get yourself even more lush caves all around the place. But heading back into spawn, the big thing you probably notice off in the distance is, yeah, that humongous mega mesa mountain right there, which just so happened to spawn a village right at the bottom of it. So this is probably the best place to get yourself set up for climbing up this absolutely massive mountain right here. And unlike other mountains, which is pretty thick, this one actually is fairly thin, so there might not be too much to do other than to climb it. But still, to climb it, you might want to do that, because it is quite the view you get. It is like, it's incredible seeing like all other types of generations and world type things with thicker rivers and other types of things like that around here. It's just amazing. But in case for some reason you aren't interested in climbing this absolute beast of a mountain, then maybe you want to head down even further to maybe right here, which also has a lush cave biome just sitting itself right here, and it is completely and totally exposed to the outside overworld. And because there's so much water down here, it makes getting yourself all the way down to the negatives so much easier. Like you never would expect seeing get yourself so deep so quickly. But yeah, this seed has you covered. But like I mentioned, finding mesa mountains actually aren't too incredibly hard to find. They seem to be much more common inside these experimental seeds, but once again, that's not necessarily a problem, at least right now, because they are getting changed later on, because yeah, it gets the opportunity for some absolutely crazy generations that you would not normally see at least this often with other types of mountains just not too far from that one mountain we saw over there. And speaking of things that are incredibly common, this seed also has lots and lots of lush cave biomes, pretty common all over the place. And you can tell that because of all these vines that happen to spawn on the place, which signifies the fact that there is a lush cave biome just underneath here, somewhere down under the depths. So in case you want, I guess, an infinite supply of lush cave blocks, then I think this seed does have you covered pretty well. But let's move on to seed 4 and see what that has to offer. So by typing in these numbers right here, you spawn in right here, right inside of a pretty thin forest right here, right next to some lakes and rivers right here, right next to a village, right next to, yet again, another mountain right here. I don't know if I'm getting incredibly lucky or if mountains are just way more common right now, but yeah, plenty and plenty of mountain seeds inside this one video, with plenty and plenty of cave generations, which mixes together with water, which makes a very beautiful style, I guess, generation you would never expect to see inside of vanilla. Like, look at something like this, where the water goes from one level all the way down to another. Like, it's beautiful. It's just absolutely beautiful. And it also gives some interesting style of generation in terms of biomes, because this right here is an ocean. Yeah, this one little body of water is an entire ocean. Bodies of water like lakes and rivers are much bigger, but yeah, oceans are expected to be miles bigger than something like this, but I guess this one seed begs to differ. Like, something like this, which is just absolutely massive, but for some reason we get some tiny oceans inside the seed. But something we don't get, something that is tiny, is actually a cave, and actually a cave entrance too, because this is actually a pretty decent sized cave entrance right here, which links inside of a really big cave, like one of these absolutely mega caves right here. And mega caves like these tend to generate right next to other types of cave entrances and generations, which means that this cave right here is actually one of the bigger ones I found in terms of the new generation inside the experimental seeds. Like, compared to where we were when we first entered this one cave, this is very, very far away. This is a very, very big and massive cave with several different types of, I guess, caves all around the place, different cave variants, different cave entrances, and other cave things you would expect to see from a single cave, but this one has pretty much almost everything you would expect to have. So the past 4 seeds I've shown off were pretty cool and interesting, but what does the 5th and final seed have to offer? Well, after you type in these numbers right here, you spawn in right where this one sign is right here, or where these several different types of signs spawn in, and they have some pretty interesting style wording on it. But yeah, you spawn in right here, right next to a village, which just so happened to spawn inside of one of these hillier hills right here, which makes for some pretty interesting style generation. I love it when villages just happen to spawn right on top of a hill or on top of a mountain, because it just makes it look so much more fun to explore and to loot. And spawning right next to it, you guessed it, is a Mesa Badlands, but also a hill, an extreme hill, which just so happened to spawn in so hilly, which makes it very, very steep and very slope-like. But yeah, the two uncommon biomes you would never expect to see just happen to spawn right here, and spawning right here very, very high up, all the way up to 229, or even all the way up to, what is this, 235. So yeah, the most unlikely duo of biomes, making one of the coolest types of generations Bedrock and Minecraft has ever seen, is quite interesting, pretty cool. And yeah, this won't stick in the final version when it actually comes out, but as of right now, in case you want to experience some very strange style generations with even snow mixing into a mesa, the coldest biome with a really hot biome, in case you do want to experience that, then this seed does have you covered. And something else this seed has you covered by is also the caveage. Yeah, there's plenty of caves which actually go down fairly deep, even with grass all the way down at 59, something you wouldn't normally expect. But yeah, this one happens to have one which just generates, in the grand scheme of things, not too incredibly deep, but deep enough and high enough, which makes for some fairly interesting crevices and entrances to other caves, which goes down very, very deep. Yeah, this one goes almost as deep as it could possibly go if you could find the right way down. And if the last couple seeds were focused on lush caves, and this one is definitely focused on the dripstone side of it. And not only is it focused on dripstone, it's also focused on amethyst geodes, and not just one amethyst geode, 2 amethyst geodes, which just happen to spawn in pretty much right next to each other. So yeah, probably the perfect place to get yourself plenty of different types of, I guess, spyglasses, amethysts, and other types of things like that, including this abandoned mineshaft, which I didn't even know existed until now. So yeah, in case you want an abandoned mineshaft, which even I didn't know about, then this is probably the place to do it at. And I could probably talk about a million other types of things inside this seed, but I think you get the general pitch of them. But yeah, let me know what you think of these seeds. But for now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all later.